I know these times won't last, even though they've been tough. Just let them know my people been had enough. Tell them we gon' rise up.
We gon' rise
Tell them we gon' rise up.
We gon' rise up.
I know these times won't last, even though they've been tough. Just let them know my people been had enough. Tell them we gon' rise up.
We gon' rise
Tell them we gon' rise up.
We gon' rise up.
Please, Lord, forgive them. They try to hold back and chillin' like they ain't know it was written. Break every chain. Wanna free my people from mental prisons. With your eyes on the sparrow, I know we'll narrow divisions. Hope is the boat to keep us afloat just as you envision. Faith to erase the pain from all of our people slain. Destined for change, with actions to back up your spoken name. When they throw dirt on ours, we use it to plant gain. When it rains, we go greater together, no matter the weather. Trust these dark days, gonna get better. Know that love will be the light to guide all our endeavors. And even if the tide should rise, we'll ride it forever. Why? We are mighty, we'll fight for our lives, cause we dying to live. Future is ours, the timing is now. Black and we proud, we saying it loud. We gave it our all, still so much more to give. We breaking down all the walls. I know these times won't last, even though they've been tough. Just let them know my people been had enough. Tell them we gon' rise up.
We gon' rise
Tell them we gon' rise up.
We gon' rise up.
I know these times won't last, even though they've been tough. Just let them know my people been had enough. Tell them we gon' rise up.
We gon' rise
Tell them
up.
we gon' rise up.
We gon' rise up.
Never backing down for the cause. Try to put our life on pause, cause we move in the image of God. No matter the hate that's spoken, our spirits remain unbroken. The divine map says you can't count us out. We are the answer. From the youth to the elders, ain't what you can tell us. Style and brilliance of mind, heart is bright as sunshine. Warrior spirits alive, so no, we won't be denied. So vibration is high and the frequency so angelic, like
Rise up, people, come on. Rise up. Rise up. Rise up.
I know these times won't last, even though they've been tough. Just let them know my people been had enough. Tell them we gon' rise up.
We gon' rise
Tell them we gon' rise up.
We gon' rise up.
I know these times won't last, even though they've been tough. Just let them know my people been had enough. Tell them we gon' rise up.
We gon' rise
Tell them we gon' rise up.
We gon' rise up. Rise up. Rise up. Oh, rise up.
Come on, family. Rise up on a Monday night. You already know what it is. Soundbytes International Radio. Monday night, you know what it is. You guys in the chat, talking that talk today, like I always do. So make sure you tune in. Talk back. So, enjoy it, and please make sure you 5 stars. Review all those good things. We utilize what we have available to us and create power within it, right? So what does that mean for these reparations? What does that number even look like for Africans, right? Some say like what's like $500,000, $500,000, half a
I disagree with all the numbers they've come out with. I disagree with them. I don't think they have me doing no calculations.
Ain't many ways I can say it. I just want my people free. You can keep on snoozing if all you sleepers ain't hearing me. Infiltrating dreams, subconscious is on the way. Sam Cooke said a change don't come, toast it up, it's on the way. Know my people crying, people dying in some crazy ways. Feel it ain't enough to pray when the pain's increasing every day. But I'm here to say, I can see the God in you. Namaste, it's up to us to do just what we gotta do. I'm not sure to believe in we fighting through the grievance. It's just the way we built, play them cards with the hands we dealt. Not everybody is ready to really have conversations. Of color wars and capitalism divided our nation. Revolution is love, all of our souls are aching. True blessings, my people impassioned in action, only awakening. Let's stand up, strong. Together it's on. Let this be a song when it's hard to carry on. I can feel the love down to my cuticles. Riding down this road, I'm in search of the beautiful. 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 I can see the light. It's brighter than you know. Riding down this road, I'm in search of the beautiful. 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 You got it in. I speak it cause I know it, we all can too. We got our different ways to show it. From Brownsville to Bankhead to H-Town to Oakland. My scope for love is open, in your heart and mind's my focus. This song here is the opus, to man all our hearts is broken. The heart speaks but can't be spoken, when high vibrations is potent. If I could travel the world to move every boy and girl, man, woman, whoever the aim is to all be better. Whether it's taps, pounds, peace, what up, Otip or your Huru. I show my people love, no matter the trials they go through. It's common ground we share, even with those that don't know you. With egos out the way, you'll see just how well this so true. Why embrace all the ugly with all of the beauty living? Recalibrate the mind, breathe in what's divinely given. Our differences ain't a hindrance to coexistence, you see. It's what makes us all unique and makes the puzzle complete. I can feel the love down to my cuticles. Riding down this road, I'm in search of the beautiful. 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 I can see the light. It's brighter than you know. Riding down this road, I'm in search of the beautiful. Search of the beautiful. Search of the beautiful. Search of the beautiful. Search of the beautiful.
As a people, we can love each other better by looking for ourselves and each other. Every single human contact, every single person we see is looking for similarities and just looking for the goodness and spirit we have within ourselves and others. It creates a bond and it also creates love and an unconditional love.
We actually need to recondition or reprogram ourselves to learn how to love unconditionally. We have to teach ourselves how to love in order to love.
Communicating better. As a people, we can also love each other better by being kinder to each other, being empathetic to each other.
I feel that love is a verb, so you have to act on love. You have to start loving each other from a listening perspective. You also have to love each other from a place where it is understanding.
Poison poured into African communities all over America. I'm still thinking about the ramifications and the sickness and the broken families and harm and the trauma that occurred as a result of the broken families, the prison to school pipeline and the patent frisk, search and frisk, stop and frisk and broken windows and various intimidation tactics being used by police forces all over the country that impact African people here on this soil, not to mention the oppression, the impact that's happening to Africans around the country, around the world.
Right.
You know, Africans in Liberia being held in boxes, you know, organs being harvested from them and then being locked back in, sewn back up. Like, there's a lot of crazy things. You know, our girls were kidnapped, and you know, so we have so many different factors that are impacting the African landscape that a number doesn't even work. And this is why, you know, the conversation is not about morals or ethics. It's about, well, if they pay, then it'll bankrupt the country. I'm not actually concerned about bankrupting the country, honestly. Like, that's not even a conversation to even be had, because that's only if you intend to function within in this framework. The reality of this framework needs to be disengaged, disembarked by African people. It doesn't support us. It doesn't help us. And there's no way to repair it. There's no fix where African people get a fair shake in this experience. So as far as I'm concerned, if it tears down the system, I'm all right with that. Like, my issue here is in learning and development is to support our people and not panicking and having the skills to sustain themselves if anything did come to fruition, which that's where we are at with the Soundbytes, to try to build up our people's skills, abilities, and processors and critical thinking, and you know, so that we get outside of the basic. You know, so many of us are just captivated by our personal mattering conversation. You know, we're trying to find self-worth, and that's a huge piece. That's a huge piece, because fight or flight is the natural response to danger. And African people have been on the receiving end of danger, terror, intimidation, horror, and some of the worst types of violations on human beings and living experience that are across the landscape of the world in recent history. So, and African people have not had a sufficient response to that experience. And mainstream science knows that they have not had a sufficient response to that experience. So that needs to be addressed. The fact that African people are not thoroughly dedicated, committed to their own survival, and they would rather fawn, right? They'd rather freeze and curdle and cower, and try to posture and try to, you know, these different various archetypes that we've now been given as African people, and we just file ourselves in one of these slots, hoping to avoid pain, hoping to avoid getting caught up, pissing the master off. You know, so there is a psychological circumstance where that needs to be addressed, and there is no real financial ticket number to be attached to that. Mm-hmm. So where are we at with it, family? Are we thinking about a life that we create outside of the matrix? Like, is there
hand of the matrix? Yeah.
Is there an experience that we actually sit at any point and contemplate what building a life could be like. Because, like, I'm having conversations with my people, and I would like to know if we are even contemplating what it would be like to have a life that you are the author of. You've authored it. You've created the parameters. You've created, what educating would look like, what healing, what health and wellness would look like.
Right.
What are the factors that you want to see in your society? Because there's been a lot of manipulation in the way that we interact with our social condition, because social conditions are what create culture. And if the people, social learning theory, we talk about this all the time. I don't know if people are try to make it so that it's on a level that's not protectable. Basically, people copy each other. This is social learning theory. We learn based on exposure and observation and motivation, and what causes us to the ability to replicate and duplicate each other. So if we replicated and duplicated fully functional animated Africans in our society, what impact could that have? So the fact that, everyone wants to look nice, want to look dressed, we get our makeup on, get our hair done, get our, lace fronts or our Louis V bags, whatever that looks like, we're replicating that, and that's why we continue to get back what we're getting back.
Right.
Those are the attributes of fully functional animated Africans. You look nice. You look okay. I'm just saying, I don't really, like, we spend a lot of time with, and this is also a part of mainstream science and psychology and sociology and human behavior, of our desire to want to, mind you, let me be clear, I've gone through the process myself. That's why I can come in here and tell you this, right? You pass through that process. It was a short-lived process for me. I'd rather just close my eyes and go in my wardrobe and put on whatever I come out with, and I'm good. And I wanted it to be like that because I didn't want to get stuck too much in having to deal with what I'm wearing too much. I don't like fussy clothes.
Getting caught up in that conversation
like
and what your aesthetic is like.
Yeah, just constantly caught up in the aesthetic, and my clothes, I gotta keep readjusting it, and it's sticky, and it's full of stockings, and they're falling down.
Because like you kind of like trying to,
and,
it's like you're trying to really create this persona out here.
Yeah.
At some point, you get caught up in the idea. The longer you sit with it, you get caught up in the idea of creating a persona of who you want to be perceived to be when you're in the outside world versus just being, right? And I think that's what a lot of us tend to struggle with, is just being, right? What does that even mean for us to just be out in the world? And God, like this, we have these ideas, these ideologies around coping mechanisms, like code switching and all those type of things. And let me be this person here and that person here, and then stretch yourself thin. And then, Jim Carrey had the quote about the depression in Avatar, right? The depression being like, it's when your body or your soul is tired of wearing the avatar of what you think what you expect people to be. I'm paraphrasing it, but essentially it's like you're putting on these different avatars depending on the different spaces that you're in, and stretching yourself thin rather than just being who you are in any space that you're in, right? For me, I've learned, in stepping into self, it's been about being my whole self in whatever space I'm in, whether it's at work, whether it's at home, whether it's out hanging out, whatever. I'm the same person no matter where you place me in the space, because it doesn't make any sense to be anybody else, right? It doesn't make any sense to put on an idea of being anybody else, right? An idea of being anybody else. And a lot of people get enamored with the idea of people, whether it's the idea of celebrities or idea of family members or idea of a love interest or idea of just what they think they should be, right? Versus just loving self, being in self totality, loving and being happy with self, where self is, and just being like in it's good, right? Just being in it and it's good with the flaws and all. And like, I understand this part of me, and this is what it is. I can work at it. I can try to work and make it better.
Make an attempt to work
right?
at it.
Because a lot of us do the thing where we realize there's a flaw, and we like, well, that's just the way I am, and let that flaw just spill out over everybody else that you come in contact with. There's being transparent, there's being vulnerable, there's being coming with your whole self. We definitely believe in that, but that also means you can come with doing the work, and in sharing that yourself, you're doing the work. You get that gives others permission to share that they can do the work too, right? Because they don't have to feel like, well, this person put on a facade, so you put on a facade, and now you just a bunch of masks, social learning theory, a bunch of avatars just meeting each other, and the actual people never actually meeting. And that's where you create these boundaries, these barriers, and understanding your relationship, being in a relationship for so long, 10, 11 years or whatever, whether it's like intimate or like again, like family, brothers or sisters, whatever, or people, friends you call brother or sister, and you don't really know each other, right? You don't really know, like, because you've been this representative for so long to the point where you believe that representative versus believing who you actually are. What are you showing up as the most versus what you're putting forth in front of people, right? What are you putting on when you go to the store, right? That's the mask you're putting on a daily basis versus just going to the store, right? You know, as an example, right? You know, you put on your good stuff or whatever, like at least put some pants, put some nice thing on. You know, women maybe put a little bit of makeup on or something like that to go to the store. But sometimes kind of feel like, I just want to go to the store. I'm just gonna get something really quick or whatever, and not about have it be a bad thing like, oh, I'm like looking bummy or whatever the case may be, but just being yourself, being in your essence. Because no matter what you wear, right, going back to the whole idea of wearing things, you're going to show up how you're going to show up, right? Because you can paint yourself to the high heavens of who you think you are, meaning makeup, meaning your outfit, meaning your shoes, meaning your hair, all these different things, meaning whatever you're driving to get to wherever you're going. But if you show up and there's no energy, if you show up and there's no essence of yourself in the space, all that doesn't matter. You're just like you're painting over air. You're painting over like an empty barrel. Like, what good is it if there's nothing inside of it for people of substance for people to latch onto?
But that's the part that's the work, though.
That's the work.
That journey of creating the self and unplugging from the madness and deciding to be a fully functional animated African. I made a post earlier this week. I said, if you don't know a fully functional animated African, please become one.
Yeah.
Because that's more important than anything else. It's more important that we utilize some of these things in our social landscape, because they trick us by some of these things that's going on, because we, you know, they say we perish for lack of knowledge. And we don't actually, at this time in our lives, we don't really have to, you know. And then there's so many things that we just repeat. Oh, nobody cares, nobody supports, nobody this, nobody that. People don't this, people don't that. All of these are the people who will go out and make a big fuss and carry a sign. How is this possible? How are the people carrying signs and service to people still are the ones who are saying that people aren't supporting and people aren't doing this and people aren't doing that? When you're in a space, my hand is up. I'm in a spaces where people are supposed to be supporting, where people are saying that they're here to, you know, do these various things, and they're not, right? Because that means that people have their own idea of what liberation looks like. And I think that's also a part of that learning and development piece that I want to infuse in that with what is your schematic?
Right.
What is your strategy? So that, because it shouldn't be 3,000 different possibilities. As African people, we've been without so much and we've lived in so much deprivation that inside of scarcity, inside of deprivation, there are residual behaviors that come as a result of our community as a whole being maintained in consistent pressure cooker. We went from Reconstruction 1865. We lived a good life for a little bit, about 59 years. Then they came in and they ransacked our joint, threw us all out into the street. And a couple of us slid away. A couple of us got a little something popping somewhere else. But the rest of us, you're talking about 4 million Africans, they claim were quote unquote released from slavery or from being ownership by someone else. Created these vagrancy laws. So many of us lives were yet again cut short because they were captured. Now they create these different laws because of course you have nowhere to go. You have nowhere to be. You have no one to provide for you. So if you got to eat, you're going to steal because you don't own anything, because they literally kicked you out with the clothes on your back.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, we're talking about a long line of conversation, because 1865 was not that long ago, right? A lot of us look at it, wow, we're so enamored by, you know, African people, we've made some progress. Have we really made progress? We actually have been demoted severely. And the fact that we're so trapped in this illusion of inclusion and this reality, and trapped in this, you know, this vision of, it's just so insane to me that we sit there and we, inside of learned helplessness, and we allow ourselves to be subject to this. You know, our ancestors back when, they fought. They, you know, our Haitian, our Haitian brothers and sisters was like, no, get out of here. Like, first of all, America had no right to create laws in someone else's house. Let's start there. Because we know the American system is based on who has jurisdiction. right? You know the system, you know the legality, you know the system. Who has jurisdiction? America had no jurisdiction over this land. What they did was British, right? They decided that they were going to create these fake treaties that they never maintained, alleging that they were given sale of the property by the indigenous in this land, when the indigenous of this land, before you go to jury, before you go and stand at the courthouse, we must understand that you understand what you're entering into. A 17-year-old, 18-year-old can enter into contract. A 17-year-old cannot enter into contract. So before I take the indigenous people and put them on contract, speaking a different language, right? I'm just saying, family, look at how the deception is occurring. I'm going to now go into contract, treaty with the indigenous of this land. Do they understand my legal system?
Right.
Are they within their capacity? Yeah. Are they fully functional in their minds and the capacity to understand the gravity of what they are entering into? Because this is why, not to say that the indigenous of this land were children. I'm saying that it was a deception because they don't allow children of a certain age to enter into contract because they're not aware of the full ramifications of the gravity of what they are entering into, with, and for, right? So we got America, who in their deceptive nature and deceptive ways of doing things, Britain, what have you, right, come over here to America to take this land from the indigenous and then turn around and use them to teach them how to manage themselves on the land, teach them how to feed themselves on the land, and then turn around and kill them off with disease, right? Poison them, basically. Poison them with disease here on their land, right, basically. And then they send for other peasant and indentured and indentured servants and prisoners from Europe, you know, what do you call it? The exiled, the misfits or what have you, right? Prisoners or whatever. Sent them over here to work to help establish this land. The aristocrats didn't come yet. They sent the military and they sent the bombs. Right? So they was carrying on. So now these are the ones who are now holding slaves. This is the first layer, because you're talking about project management and layering and the unfolding of the behaviors that are happening over time. Right. So we got to look at it from a realistic perspective so that we bring ourselves current. So now we're going from 1865 and we're moving forward, and we're just looking at this constant pressure cooker. And we're looking at a few of us sliding out, and we're looking at the global landscape, because now these folks have went around the world and intimidated, the same intimidating they were doing here in America. They were bullying and intimidating other people around the world. They were creating little cliques, and you're going to be with us. Your country, you're going to work with us. Your country's going to work with us. And if you don't participate with us, we're going to not allow you to trade. Well, guess what? You don't actually need to trade with anybody. This is what I keep saying about Africa. Africa doesn't really need to trade with anybody. Africa has 54 countries and can trade within the country and be fine, because the whole continent of Africa is filled with resources. It doesn't need to send any of its resources off of its border. You don't have to participate in the system that was laid for you, particularly since they don't allow you full flexibility to participate as a shareholder at the table. I mean, I don't know. It wasn't our concept. This wasn't our concept. You know, we took and we managed land, and we made sure the people had what they needed in the area to support the needs of the people. The people have now been, basically, people are just consumers. Most people don't offer most people live their lives every day and they don't offer anything to the space. They don't offer anything. Their energy doesn't offer anything. All they do is take. And see, people take so casually that when I have a conversation, and I don't shy away from conflict or communication. It's not conflict, to me, it's communication, because if you step on my toe, I need to let you know you're stepping on my toe. Like, I can't get with people who are like passive aggressive and who are going to let somebody step on their toe and then suck their teeth and be and storm around here and act the fool about it. I don't have no time for those type of immature people. That demonstrates a level of lack of maturity as far as I'm concerned. So I'm going to address it. Right. So we're not addressing the fact that this system has been standing on us, and we're not speaking up for ourselves. And there is a psychological dysfunction that allows within the mainstream psychology and sociology, there are classifications for this kind of behavior. But they've been denied to African people. African people have been have not been affirmed of their humanity, and the fact that it's been taken away and it has been oppressed, and that has had a grave effect on African people and their self-concept and their worthiness.
Mm-hmm.
The worthiness piece is the biggest piece, because 5-year-olds already understand themselves as a bad dog. I have to take you back there all the time, because if you become 40 and at 5 years old you understood the black girl as a bad dog, what do you think about yourself when you become 40? What do you spend your entire life trying to do? Matter. In how many different dysfunctional ways you can count? How many?
And without doing the self-work, you find every which way but the right way that makes sense to matter. Like, you find mattering in your clothes, you find mattering in the way you live, mattering in what you drive, mattering in who you hang out with, mattering in the type of job you have, mattering in the accessories you wear on yourself, the hat,
where you go,
mattering even in your body, like you fit enough, you matter in that sense, or whatever the case may be, or you voluptuous, you matter in that sense, right? You become desirable, all those different things matter. You matter in validation in the eyes of other people, right? All this mattering, except all this idea of mattering versus you actually mattering to yourself in the most in tune and internal way possible, right? We're not doing that work. And when we have ourselves who've been thrown into this pressure cooker, who've been thrown into this space where the curator of the space is constantly moving the cheese and constantly putting forth these new legalities and these new legislations and these new patents and these new things to move things around in the space. And because there's enough of them putting it forth in this way that's very beguiling and very cajoling the space of what you're getting your mind into, and this must be the lay of the land. Whereas just making it up as it go along, whatever maintains the power of this particular group, right, over other people, right? And if you don't fall in line, then you're looking at genocide. Then you're looking at raping and pillaging. Then you're looking at conquering someone's land. And you're looking at moving people around. What they're doing in Israel, where you got Palestine, where you got Israeli folks on the backyards of Palestinian people talking about, this is my land now. Just rolling up. Like, this is my land now. I don't make the rules. Yeah, you did. You made it up. You're creating this space for people to be subservient, for people to be less than, so you can prop yourself up above. And as long as it's the idea of the strength in numbers and the mounting up of ideas, right? Or just the believability. You don't have to be really necessarily be the strength in numbers. Being that much of a snake tongue to have someone believe in and subscribe to your madness, right? That's what we've subscribed to. The madness of the matrix, the madness of the system, the madness of the colonizer mind, that has us believing something that's totally false. That has us believing us to be a way that's not at all conducive or pulled from the way we've actually come from, right? So now we will, and again, with the being a pressure cooker of while you're trying to get on the road of understanding that there's all these barriers, all these things getting thrown at you in circumstances, and you got a job now, you got debt, you got college debt, you got student loans, you got rent, you got all this thing, all these different these pieces, or challenging living wage, redlining, all these different things, boom, 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 hitting you left and right to keep you off your game from getting in tune with self and getting identification and understanding and grounding in who you are. Because once and this is what they understand, is that once you're grounded in who you are as an African, once you're grounded in who you are as a human, once you're grounded in who you are, then they can't take that from you, because you understand the mechanism and powers that you have available to you to move in any space that you're in, right? And that's the biggest fear, right? That you have self-agency, that you have ownership over who you are, and the possibility of you having the tongue to move other people to do the same thing. They don't want that. They don't want that. That's why it was infiltration. That's why you got COINTELPRO. That's why you got all these different things that happen over history to dismantle any form of the Black Messiah, right? Any form of
Messiah, the idea of leadership, the idea of moving the people in the African frequency and vibration that causes us to quicken our spirits and go into action. So this is what the whole Messiah underlying connotation, that they're in fear of, allegedly.
Just want to check in and say peace and power, Sister Rollo. It's good to see you again. I know you said in the chat, but want to voice it, right? Peace and power to you. Peace and power, Haru. Thank you for joining in the conversation. Share the broadcast and please continue joining the conversation. Share your thoughts. We appreciate y'all coming in the chat and standing in tune with what we're talking about here today. It matters and we do appreciate you. So thank you for checking in. Yes, I'm sorry.
And that journey of becoming a fully functional animated African, to be able to wield your power of knowledge of self. It is an activity. And, for me personally, I needed to know that it was possible. I didn't believe it. It didn't happen in the Bible. It didn't happen in other walks and different facets of my life. And I believe in the utility of a thing to create a certain outcome. I believe in the practical use of a thing to create a certain desired effect. And the reason being because as African people, we didn't have certain things. I was very young that human rights wasn't available to us. That why all of a sudden when I go in these communities and I come to the African community, Black community, and there is such large differences in these communities. And then when now you see, and this is something that it should really jar people. It should jar African people. It definitely should jar white people. That why can you go to African communities and see that these communities are so neglected and deprived, but then it's comforting to you to say that it's the people doing it to themselves.
Right.
That's a comfort. That's a touch and go situation. Oh, they did it. That's what they choose. That's what they want. Right. And then here comes, when they get ready to gentrify these communities and they bring these coffee shops, they bring these thrift stores. And, there's certain things, that pet daycare centers and tanning salons. When you start seeing certain things like fresh fruits and vegetable stands,
not of the normal consumption of Africans.
And once you see a Starbucks, it's pretty much a wrap. You can hang it up for that.
Or Whole Foods.
Or Trader Joe's. Because
Trader Joe's, definitely.
The research and development that goes into play before something like that comes to your neighborhood is precise. So for me, I'm looking for faculties to help me create desired effects. And I want to know what is African. When I talk to African people, what are you using? And they always say things like, you're right, man, that's deep. You're right, man, that's deep. That's all I've been hearing for 30 years.
How are you applying it? What are you hearing coming? What are you hearing come out?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay, now what?
That's true. So what are you doing in your home, in your life? What are you doing in your mind when you hit it that's deep, when you hear that information? Right. Granted, let me be very clear. Yeah, fully functional animated African, because it's not a lot of huge spaces for fully functional animated African, and there still really isn't a full safe space. There's still a lot of navigating and negotiating in this space since we are living in this living experience. And we also do have conversations about survival and staying true without defying yourself, your soul, and your ancestors, and without betraying your children's future. Because that's what we do when we don't stand up in this crooked room. So, and if you've never heard it, if you don't know a fully functional animated African, you need to become one. Okay, because you don't get to walk around here and betray yourself and soul. You don't get to betray your ancestors, and you don't get to betray your children's birthright. And right now they did the best that they can is not acceptable.
You also particularly want to keep in mind, don't betray the elders as well, because a lot of folks that did fight and did do what they could, they're still around. Look at Ruby Bridges.
Well, some of our ancestors are still alive, and they did what they could do at the time,
right.
And they thought it was the right decision in some areas to do some of these things, except that there was an assessment piece that was kind of missing.
It's kind of missing, yeah.
And that assessment piece that was kind of missing was when you do market research, you research your position, but you also research your opposition's position. You research your opposition's position and what their next move is going to be, given you make A, B, C, or D decision. Once you make A, B, or C decision, if I go A, what are they going to do? What is their opposing response? If I go B, what is their opposing response? If I go C, what is their opposing response? We as a people, we've been too trusting, and we've believed that we're shaking hands, and that's a good deal.
Well, remember what was the conversation at the crux then? It was like this idea of integration and then this idea of equity and amongst people. When you got leaders like MLK, and that his moment, that was, I think, of led my people to a burning house, and then we lost him. So the moment it was recognized, like where we stand, and like the realization of mask that we're living under, this Truman Show that we're living under, that the ceiling is fake, the sky is fake, the walls, the buildings over there are painted on, all those things. Like it's this constant surveillance and curating of our relationships with people, of how we're moving around in the space to make us believe a certain particular thing. Because integration, a very lofty idea that was never put into fruition, but we were led to believe for decades that it was something that we were taking place just because now today is, we may go to the same concerts together, we may go to the same places together, but it's mostly the African going to these places, right? The African going to the Jewish store, the African going to the Chinese restaurant, the African going into little Italy, and like all this stuff, like all these spaces, or the African going to Harvard or Yale or whatever, or Ivy League colleges, what's it called, PWI, predominantly white institutions, and believing that it's that acceptance that's validated their being or their humanity in the space, where it's you've been beguiled into believing that more acceptance in the matrix means you're okay, right? That means that you are something, right? When you already have been something, you already it. You already born something. You already it. You were born African. You were born worthy. You were born with powerful. You were born beautiful in the strength of your African essence. Period. Because everyone else is in a space of trying to figure it out, right? Whether it's our culture, whether it's our skin, trying to, whether it's our body, our body parts, our shapes, our noses, all this type of stuff, figuring that thing out and trying to be that. You already it. But because it's happening so subtly, and even not so subtly, really, especially in this day and age, is that you believe it's funny versus like, no, this is serious. There's something here that I need to believe, I need to check in with, because they know something I clearly didn't, right? So what do you do with that information, Africa? When you step into that, what we've done is we make a joke about it. Oh, white people trying to get black people butts, white trying to get black people lips, and it's a joke, but it doesn't move beyond that versus addressing the larger issue, is that they understand the power of your African essence, they understand who you are as a melanated people, and that they've been trying to figure it out clinically, scientifically, not really in an intimate space of your being, not really in an understanding of your humanity, but trying to figure out the pieces. What makes them tick? What makes them tick? Is it because they got these shapes? Is it because they got the skin tone? Is it because they got? It's everything. We're everything, right? We're everything.
Well, what have
and
they
then
done?
some.
They've actually they have made concessions for whatever deficits and lack, because that's the smart thing to do,
right? To
fortify. They fortified. So they, white women had envy of black women's hair, black women's skin tone, black women's lips, black women's butts and hips. They thought it was attractive, so they've decided to make it a way for them to get those parts.
Right.
They also have penile implants and everything else now. They have all kind of drugs, pills, or what have you. They fortified so that they could, cover up that conversation around worthiness and insecurity,
right? To
downplay it. It makes sense to make an assessment, and wherever you're having weakness, to fortify in those areas. I mean, at the end of the day,
that don't work.
That's cosmetic. Well, I mean, at the end of the day, that's just one facet. But there are also other biophysiological deficits. So they say African children learn, and they're already opening their eyes. And this is a scientific study that says if you want to compare black African babies to white babies or what have you, that they're already emotionally and psychologically and socially more advanced than white babies. Okay, fine. So what do they decide to do? Poison black babies. That's it.
We gotta dumb down the pool.
That's all happened. That's the only thing that happened. The only thing that happened was they didn't change how their children respond. They just decided to stick their foot out in the aisle every time you walk down the aisle and trip you. Every turn you've made. So there's never been a even playing field. There's always been someone sticking their foot out to trip you as you go down the aisle.
And a lot of us, I'm sorry, it's just like it's this play on the reality. Like you said, the socialization is easy for African people. We are relationship-based people. We very much deal in the familiarity, dealing in the familial spaces, right? Creating connection with folks. We're connected people. We're built into this idea of connecting with one another, right? And a lot of what white supremacy has done, or white center consciousness has done, is played on that in order to get a particular type of favor, get deeper into trying to figure us out, right? Trying to figure out what the whole tick and dissect us without actually dissecting us, right? Dissect us psychologically and spiritually and emotionally, right? Versus like deliberately cutting us open. And they're even deliberately cutting us open, right? Look at, Kendrick Johnson and all these other people that we've lost. They've done it. They've tried to. Get Out was a documentary, okay? That was not a movie. They're piecing. They're trying to piece together Frankenstein, exactly. You know what I mean?
I've been calling it.
But that's what it is, because you're trying to dissect the people to understand them, so you can figure out, is this what will make me a better person? Because genetic annihilation is taking place, and I'm creating every which way scenario of my annihilation and why I need to fight for survival, and why now this is a competition, and I'm making everybody my enemy. So let me try to play to their weaknesses of being familial, being in culture and things like that, and it's all plays. They're all plays, right? To figure out how to be on top.
The white folks do not think about any of this stuff.
No,
just for the record.
Right.
So this is when you, as an African, get the leg up.
Right.
Let me cut you across.
No.
But that's where people who have an African, if you're an African person, you're a fully functional animated African, and you're arriving in the space. And when I say arrive, because if you're raised in this space, they got Jay is a white woman to teach that white people, because of the way the educational system is applied here in America, that people who are having the white cultural experiences, whiteness has been mechanized. So whiteness has a cultural experience. Culture meaning behaviors, talk, action, social engagement, rules of social engagement, and different things. Like they have culture. It's a culture. Whiteness is a culture. Okay. So if you're not raised this way to be a racist, then you've done some work to not be a racist. And there are African people who are white, who have white-centered consciousness. White brain.
And that's why we say, to add piggyback on that, is that it's not about, if you're talking about being in this fight against white-centered consciousness, it's not about being one-on-one with white folks. People. It's not about fighting white people. It's about fighting a conscience. We move beyond a personage. We move beyond a persona of whiteness into this idea of white-centered consciousness as a mindset, right? As a framework of thinking and operating on a day-to-day. To now, we have Africans, we have Indians, we have Asians, we have Latinos like that operate within this mindset. Of a colonized mindset, of a Eurocentric, Euro-Gentile mindset, of a white-centered consciousness mindset that has a belief system that whiteness is the top, is the pedigree, is the thing to strive for. That's the standard to strive for. Even in Korea, was it Good Hair or what? No, something. It was Brown. I forgot the name of the show, but it was comparing across cultures and across country lines. This internationalistic view of whiteness and darkness, right? And like how in Korea it's like, if you're the whiter you are, the prettier you are, right? You can be barely beige, right? Damn near beige to pale, just ghostly. And as long as you have that little bit of beige, you're dark, right? You have to be white like this thing here, this globe.
And the thing about whiteness is it's not healthy. It's not healthy. Like biophysiological, scientifically, paler skin is not healthy.
Right.
Period. You can get by, and they've been getting by, but this is an assessment to make only for the purposes of making the assessment and combating the consciousness of African learned helplessness, inferiority. There's just a way to draw a level so that you speak the truth to your soul, speak the truth to your consciousness, so that you can then change the way that you behave, because repetition is a mother of all learning. You've been taught, and you've repetitiously been taught to be subordinate.
Yeah.
You've repetitiously been taught that these individuals are above you. This is not sitting here and needing to take pleasure in, tearing someone else down for your own consciousness. This is for you to tell your consciousness, because your consciousness is giving you ambivalence. It's giving you the kickback. So, and it's playing to your sensitivities and your compassionate heart. So you need to now reason yourself into the journey and coach yourself through this space so that you become a fully functional and animated African. And after becoming a fully functional animated African, you can leave behind this whole concept of what I look like so much. You won't be so engaged in how you look and what people are looking at, because guess what? All of this, beauty's in the eyes of the beholder, right? Physically, you will physically, as everything else, it will age.
Mm-hmm.
But mentally, you're supposed to be laying bricks for sovereign African, for a sovereign African future. That's supposed to be your intention and your goal, because this experience, it was never for people who are having a white cultural experience and the races and the round table and all of those individuals to have the right to encroach upon your African birthright. And that is your life force. No one has the right to encroach upon that. So let that be your conversation, because people who are having a white cultural consciousness, when you start to have your presence, they will start, the ones who want to make a fuss. I'm not talking about like liberals. You might be able to have a discussion with a liberal, what have you, but I don't really care, because if I don't see a journey for a better outcome, like, I'm not wasting my time. You want to get into therapy? Go to school. Go get your education. I can give you a list of books. Go work. Like, work that out. But for African people, when you're in that space, there's a natural default for people having a white cultural experience, and their immediate response is, they're not necessarily going to be able to sustain standing in front of you as a fully functional animated African, because they're used to you automatically being subordinate. There was some sort of challenge at one point that was going out, which I had this conversation with a girlfriend when I was in high school about, like, why you always jumping back and forth when folks come down aisle? Like, what's up with that? That shit is mad annoying. Like, stop doing that. You're like, you bobbing and weaving like you skateboarding. Stop doing that. Well, I was just trying to be respectful. The respectful thing is to share the space.
Right.
And since clearly no one else here wants to be respectful, you're going to miss a shoulder messing with me.
Okay.
You're going to learn. And I'm not getting into fights with white folks. I'm in Manhattan. And, you get caught up in subtitles of whiteness. Don't get into subtitles of whiteness, because these white little cliques of people, little segments of folks, they only create these new lines of division to create new lines of business for themselves, to create new classifications for themselves, but they're still a part of the same landscape of we're up here and you're down here.
Right.
So for you, as far as you're concerned, just function on the level. Keep everything nice, short, and simple. Keep it short and simple. African people have to contend, and this is why we're talking about wanted to talk about that we charge genocide as a foundation that we're looking at now for what are we creating in terms of reparations. If we get this reparations, what are we gonna do with it?
Right.
Because we've been taught to be subordinate, remember? And we've been taught to buy things, to placate ourselves for therapy. African people, we really need therapy. We really need African-centered therapy to get us out of the stuck space, where all we know to do is buy things to try to feel good, and we need to now learn to strategize on what it looks like to be in command with self-agency of your environment. African people want to go and start pleading to people knocking on doors. You don't need to do nothing. Stand still and create within the space that you are in. You don't need to ask anybody to do anything. There's plenty of resources right here. Right here. So this is how, when folks slam doors in your face, this is why they do it. Because, like, them folks didn't ask anybody to help them. They literally came here with their own game plan. And they leaned into one another because we all we got. We all we got because we understand that we have a shared experience. We want the best for ourselves. We're going to maintain our stock, and nobody else is our friend. Because if anybody else was our friend, they would have stepped up to help us. Period. And that's it. And that's from the streets. If anybody had your back, he'd have stuck his head out when you was getting yours cracked.
Right.
And since nobody did, miss me with your feelings. I'm serious. And it's not personal. It's not personal. It's not personal when, who was it? The Chinese prime minister came out there and said, yeah, I'm going to hire a Chinese man first.
Yeah.
I know the Chinese man's family. I know he got to work. He's a part of my community. If I have a job, I'm going to give it to him first. I can't argue with that man.
No.
What can you say? But guess what? African people, They looking all over your head trying to see where the next somebody else other than you is standing in line to try to jump over you. I know because I've been in the space more than once, more times than I care to remember. Right. How many times the African, whether it was a continental African or a diasporic African, looking all over my head. When you get me, you get way more than you paying for. Right. But they want that other guy who is going to barely do enough. And let me tell you, I work with some white folks, and I swear all they do is show up to work. They literally don't do nothing else. They just come in and they kind of they're good for being there early. That's about it. That's the best you're gonna do. They'll be there hour early every day.
Because we subscribe to visuals, right?
We've
allowed Vacant Esteem to successfully, induce us to where it's we're not gonna trust the home, even if it's like cool with him. So like, I don't know, he's not gonna do the job right, whatever. He might mess up things for me.
Why don't you train him up?
And also,
give him some training.
But also, even on the other side of it, is that we allow Vacant Esteem to infuse itself in us to where we allow these behaviors to manifest, and then it infuses these conversations between us, like if there's slothfulness or whatever the case may be. While we may also to be very brilliant people, but we've allowed these ideas with the system is saying we are who's saying we are. Everybody has a conversation about who we are as a people within our circumstance, but us, right? Everybody, and it has no clue who we are. Right, so we believe now. We fall into that. We fall into that esteem to where we got to grasp onto the outward conversation to believe in who we are. Right, or I'm a threat. Though. I'll act like a threat. Whatever the case may be. I'm gonna do just enough to get the job done. Or I'm gonna do X, Y, and Z. We also fall into these pits of that. Right, when we get into the idea of I'm the upwardly mobile African or whatever, I'm not hired. Even though I grew up with them, you cool, whatever. Because maybe doing these things. I realize when you come from the same space and looked at the circumstances differently, but there's still the same mindset there that has you just doing these things in a different manner. Or you're still subscribing at the end of the day to white centered consciousness, right? When you subscribe to white centered consciousness, this is the leadership, this is the penultimate of success. Or you're subscribing to it where I'm not good enough. I'm going to do this. So I'm going to just be in the streets or whatever. This is what it is for me. There's a lot of people that believe in that. There are a lot of people that believe that this is it for me. That this may be the block. This may be the block. This may be it. I don't have a choice. Yeah. A lot of our people very much believe in I don't have a choice. Right? And that's why I went through transformational work to understand it and see the magnitude of this idea of I don't have a choice. This is what it is for me. This is what's been defined for me. This is what's been predetermined for my life since I was born. This is what a lot of us are walking around with, right? Because of the circumstances. Mm-hmm. You can't see you looking out a dirty window to try to see the truth.
So I just passed by a post from Baba Malemu yesterday. And it's so crazy. It's so
Baba Malemu Baruti, yes, indeed.
Baba Malemu Baruti. Okay, you don't understand how much of a reservoir of good, strong African-centered consciousness, information, such an incredible scholar, and he has been committed to this for decades, literally, and very down to earth. You just get into it. Akoben House, AKOBEN house.com for every kind of literature that you need to support your journey of clear African-centered consciousness to help you on your way, particularly for those starting from the ground up.
Yes,
the works take you through the gamut of the processes of our entire social experience, including healing your psychological consciousness and trying to deal with that, that white brain. And that's the worst part, the white brain and the Christian brain. You need a lot of fortification for that. So please outsource Akoben House for reinforcement and fortification along those lines. But check this out. He made a post yesterday that actually just came up on my thread. And it says, some people say that warriors don't operate within reality. And I would say, I agree. Given that we are talking about the limitations of the imaginative genius in Yorugo's reality, in this reality, African thinking is constrained by a whole host of unspoken can'ts and don'ts. Within this reality, sovereignty is conceptually impossible for Africans because nothing is imaginable outside of Urugu's influence and company.
Mm-hmm.
Still, I can imagine nothing more truly liberating in the African's genius than African sovereignty.
Okay.
And I know that without it, in an imposed, invasive, volatile, anti-African reality, we would drown in the sea of others' self-hating misery. And this is a post from Michael Lamo. And this is literally because you were saying this. So I was like, wow, you were just saying this.
Right.
You know, yeah, some of us, we can't fathom choices and creativity. And you're talking about reparations, you're talking about repair, you're talking about a number, a metric. What metric can be placed on the fact that one's ability to conceive has been hampered due to his exposure to madness? See, but this is what I've been asking African people. Because of your exposure to the system, you need redress for your consciousness. It doesn't matter where you come from. You must go in and literally deal with those faculties. You have to, I advise, just give it everything. I'll be honest with you. To me, that's the easiest. Listen, I believe in the shortest between 2 points, the straight line. If you're trying to get from point A to point B, just dump everything and start from scratch because you start with intention. And then when those residues show up, they will be big, bright red signs. You won't miss them because you started with a clean slate. So when something that you didn't put in there pops up, you zero right in on it. It's just the easiest way for me. This is the workshop on starting to take control and getting in that driver's seat to actually have those exercises where you go back and you get rid of those things. Now, if we can conceptualize a reality, this is what I'm saying. African people don't have to trade. We're under these scrutinies and we're looking, we need infrastructure. And we got people coming in and giving us loans and aid and all of these foolishness things, putting the people, and this is our birthright. So when they want to pay repair to Africans in America, they have to repair Africans and the children and sons and daughters of stolen Africans. They also have to repair the Africans, Africa, because that's our home. You disrupted Africa, took its people. No, all of the people that were taken from Africa were not slaves, were not prisoners of war. They took entire damn near continents of people and shipped them around the world. For what? For greed, for their own, and everybody, people around the planet, we didn't do that.
And laziness.
That
they
was
want to do
not,
the work themselves.
That was not a way of being. Yes, there were disagreements and there was wars, right? But this type of a lack of humanity, this beaten down, this petrification, this soul wrenching. So this is what I'm saying to you. When you have that walk with your ancestors and you take that deep dive, for some people, you might very well become possessed. It depends on what the markers in your mind has you relating to that experience as, right? When you take that walk with your ancestors and you hear, right, the slave narratives, you know, I've read the slave narratives. I've read so many different documentations. I had read so many different types of recaps of that experience, but it wasn't until I read Ida B. Wells' Red Diary in 2005. That was groundbreaking for me. That took me into another space to sit there for days and read all of these accounts of people just peopling, being attacked by white hatred for no reason. So when we think about George Floyd, okay, but let's think about Sandra Bland and think about Kevin Browder.
Khalif,
excuse me, not Kevin Browder. Khalif Browder. He's actually on this picture, on this post that Bob Lane will put up here. Sandra Bland and Khalif Browder. They were just peopling. They were just every day going about their lives, peopling nothing.
Right.
Why? Right now, Arbery's case is starting right now. He was just peopling. He was just living his life, just chilling, just doing his due. You mean to tell me the humanity of African people is so they can be encroached on at any given point by somebody who feels like it at their whim? Because police officers are not at the round table. They are regular, everyday citizens. So what is creating a consciousness that makes everyday nondescript JQ public white person in a uniform behave and interact with African people the way that they are?
And to get the scapegoat, I was scared. Then why are you taking the job?
If you were scared of a person standing in front of you just because they were brown, let's talk about that. Let's have a conversation about the social landscape that makes people, when they see brown people, become alarmed. Where's the repair? Where's the digits that are going to support that? Where are the digits that are going to support that impact? Okay? Where are the digits? Where are the numbers? Where are the metrics? How are you creating? I'm not talking about federal government. I'm not talking about the pieces of the pie that belong to all of these various corporations that they've now all carved themselves away and stepped away from the government that's got all kinds of big pieces of the pie. I'm not even talking about any of that. I'm talking about the basic moral fabric and consciousness of no human being has a right to encroach on another human being's right to life. None. This is non-existent. It's in our world because there's a dysfunctional, demented consciousness that is a part of this social landscape, that it makes it all right to harm people, that it's okay. People have a lack of communication skills, but people can carry guns. In our social landscape, we as a social condition across American landscape, no matter where you are, there is a severe lack of communication skills. I don't care at what level of development you are at, socially or economically or educationally, people lack communication skills.
And there's no want to make it better. That's the dangerous thing too. There's no want to make it better.
But people are about to flip out if you start talking about reducing or encroaching on your Second Amendment right. I'm just saying. You would not, because the reality of it is, why do you need weapons? Why do you need to feel that you're unsafe? Because this kind of weapon is final.
Right.
You intend to do some damage with this weapon. And my chief, when I was in training, I was in corrections, he said, listen, you better shoot that convict. Send a mass, period. Because you may not get a second chance. That's what he told me. Stood right there and said, chief said, listen, shoot that convict and send a mass, period.
It makes it easier to say when you say convict versus looking at them as a human being.
Convict. Shoot that convict, period.
Mm-hmm. I don't feel no way about it. Shoot him. And these are the things. These are
At the end of the day, he said, listen, it's your life or it's his life.
Yeah. That
convict, if that convict is out of line, don't waste no time. Shoot that convict, send a mass, period. And this is why when you go to the training, when you go to the range, you shooting a silhouette that's center mass. They don't give you no full body silhouette. You get a center mass silhouette. I'm just saying, African, the lack of communication skills, the lack of conflict resolution, the lack of seeing another person as a human being and giving them the benefit of the doubt is missing from our society. Everybody wants to say we've progressed. We have not progressed.
Sure, you got a long way to go.
Are you kidding me? Progress is not even in the building at all.
It's not.
Progress is not here, period. You made some stuff. You created some things that's cute. Now women can have butts who didn't have them before. Okay, so what? That wasn't necessary. It wasn't necessary. Having a big butt is not functional. We don't need hypersexualization in our society. We already have enough of it. I'm just saying. What is your value system? Those are mine. I'm just saying. Because I'm talking about balance. I'm talking about mine. Right? There is a space for intimacy, but we are hypersexualized, and we've now enculturated and socialized everyone into it's all about their feelings.
Right.
We can't even have basic conversations anymore
without feelings being involved.
Without people becoming hypersensitive with a lack of the ability to conduct a conversation. Yeah. Just a discovery conversation. It's an immediate reaction.
Yeah. There's no cognitive deconstruction of the conversation to get to an actual destination, right? It's all about emotions, all about emotion, especially with the younger generation is on high, right? The emotions on high around how you make me feel, or how I'm being offended, or the hypersexualization. Well, that's just taking so much precedence within the space now. You know what happened? And that was a thing, back then, maybe like you want to say 20, 30 years ago or so. where we were talking about this kind of slow, gradual hypersexualization of kids, or of especially of Black youth, and it's just gotten worse and worse with how, you know, how they're treating our music. They're weaponizing our music, right? They're weaponizing hip hop. Now in today's world, you got this. I seen a tweet meme a few years back where someone said, you know, back then in the early stages of hip hop, or like the 90s or whatever, you had the drug dealers doing the rapping and then putting out the message, and now you have the kids of today are the drug users, right? All the music is about drugs and violence and raging, and like, this is what it is, the raging. That's the thing, raging and drugs and you know, I don't give a fuck about this dude or that dude, and bitches and being a bad bitch inside this, inside that, and like hot girl summers, and like all this stuff. This is like has very hollow meaning to your actual essence. It's very hollowed out meaning, actual essence, and actually an amplification of a demonic space, of an amplification of far departure from being a righteous understanding of yourself as an individual, right? You're leaning to these lustful things, leaning to what flesh can provide versus what the spirit can provide, and you're lacking access to the spirit, moving further away from who you are as a spirit. We're all we're actually the vessels, right? We're moving real time spirits. We're moving through this space and time in these vessels, right? These bodies. We're in the grand scheme of time and space in history. This is a blip. We're living in a space, in a blip of our existence, right? Because it's a cycle. It's a cycle, whether we believe it or not. But if you understand it, we're moving in cycles, right? That's why we feel like we've been here before. That's why we feel like somebody we knew was like in a past life. All that conversation, all that, we're the spirit's moving. So when we're just feeding the realities of what the flesh, these momentary things, these momentary salves, these blips in time, we're feeding that. We're not getting what's necessary, the nourishment that our actual spirit needs, that our actual soul needs, right? So you got these kids walking around soulless. Like, these kids walking around soulless. I mean, like, I remember seeing these 13-year-old kids drunk on the train, or on a train in New York, and trying to fight with an older gentleman who was homeless, right? Wow. He was homeless, and he made his due by walking around the trains and made cracking jokes or whatever. These kids, group of kids, it's already late as it is. It was like 10, 11 o'clock, so they shouldn't even been on the train. Look like they came from school and never went home, because they had someone had backpacks. They left school, never went home, and somehow found their way to some alcohol and looked drunk. And it was just this whole mess on the train, and it's just too much. And there's a young girl that met at a bus stop. She was just moving around in space, just looked like she was just gone in the face, to the point where she was leaning back and almost and bumped into me as if she didn't even know I was even there. She just wasn't in tune with her surroundings. Young girl. I was like, hello, hey, what's going on? You all right? And didn't even acknowledge that, right? Didn't acknowledge the fact, like,
kids. Who's poisoning our children? Who's poisoning our people? And who's speaking about this? Right, this is the conversation that I'm interested in. Like, what are we doing about this? Right. And you know, Baba Malemu speaks in his piece about, you know, creativity beyond the confines of Yurugus, and you gotta look up Marimba Ani's Yurugu, Yurugu, and that is an analysis of, you have to, when you're making your decisions and your strategy, you need to know what your opposing forces moves are going to be too. You can't just be moving and just, you know, you need to know what's in the space. So, you know, what's happening with our consciousness? Why are we not trying to make it better? Why are we not making it an effort to insulate? Then they say trigger things like, oh, so you think that we should segregate and just throwing water, you know, because these are everyday John and Jane Q public white people, and they haven't done no knowledge whatsoever, none whatsoever. They just have a conversation about the filtered white centered consciousness passed through whitewashed recall of whatever history panders to their comfort space. So when they say things to you like, what are you talking about, segregation? African people need time to heal. And every time they mix and mingle with people who are having a white culture experience, people who are of white culture can take up too much space. They feel entitled to the room. They make it a burden to others in the space to do the work for them, because this is the consciousness that they're accustomed to. And they don't want to be checked, because I check them. They don't want to be checked. Do your own research. Here's a research for you. Go check it. Matter of fact, Google you know how to find the library, okay?
Yo,
And start reading European scholarship,
right?
Because they've been lying to you and they're continuing to feed the propaganda. You need to read outside of European scholarship if you actually are looking for the truth. Now, there are some Europeans who do give, but there aren't enough.
Right.
And they also suppress them as well.
Right.
You know, they got Armand, a reporter. Let me say his name right now. Armand. I'm gonna say his name. Oh gosh, Armand. So I wanted to say his name right now. My goodness, I can't believe I can't say it right now.
I don't know what you're talking about.
He's a reporter and he's a whistleblower.
Julian Assange.
Julian Assange.
Yeah.
And his son was Armand.
Yeah.
And then they will, like I said, they will suppress one another. You know, the truth gets out because there are people that are invested in maintaining this illusion.
Right, because there's only power. There's actually no loyalty even within their ranks.
No.
Right. As long as you pose a threat to the elevation, then you're cut off. Right. As long as you over there with them folks, then you're enemy to us. You cut off. Right. And in some essence, that's something that we get to employ as well, in the sense of protecting who we are, protecting our self-agency. Right. And that even means against other Africans that don't want to.
That's right.
Because for them, it's about maintaining power. For us, it's about protecting who we are, protecting our community, protecting our self-agency and who we are. It's a different dynamic when you look at it, right? We need to activate that mindset around protecting our village, protecting our community, protecting our self-agency, protecting the African space, right? It's not about being hoarding power over others. It's not about conquering others. It's not about controlling others. It's about protecting who we are, protecting what we have, and maintaining that, the culture, the energy, the spirit, the lineage, all those things.
First thing we do is exploit it.
Yeah, we give it away.
We give it away. We exploit it. We try to make
liquid money. That's
the
what
first thing we do.
You know, we give
everybody calls us liquid money.
Yeah, everybody understands that except us. And we've gotten into a way where we can hear it and not do anything about it. Oh man, he was like, yo, they say we out here like we liquid money, we giving away, we doing this, and we can even preach it and still not do anything about it, right? Because that's why you can have people in the space like a Jay-Z or Beyonce to start putting these symbols out, like the black fist, do all that type of stuff, and them not feel away, right? It could be and even them, they could really legitimately be trying to do that and put this in the space more and more. Like I said, I've been seeing the maturity of Jay-Z. You know, shouts out to that. I appreciate seeing that. The maturation is crucial, but at the same time, the system has done its job so successfully that it doesn't even matter if they put those symbols out. Why? Because they know that we just are enjoying the symbolism. Right, we're not actually activating in a way that's effective, because the effective activation would be the unification of our people and standing against it. We're not in a strong enough space for what revolution actually means, for what fighting for liberation actually means. We're not strong enough space to stand together around that and stand together so consistently, right? We may sound good for like a day, right? You know, we're gonna march for this weekend, and then it's back to the same old. Right, and then we're mad about something else, and then something else takes away the distractions from it, and then we go back to something else, right? Like, you know, WAP made his way in the amidst, you know, the whole George Floyd and Breonna Taylor and Ahmaud Arbery and Sean Reed and Tony McDade and was it Rashawn Moore, I think is what his name was. Like this Black Deaths was still happening, right? You know, George Floyd was a pinnacle because people were at home and didn't have shit to do. So they was watching the news and saw that. That's the only reason that it became a global phenomenon, right? Because George Floyd was existing already for years, right? Black body killed. George Floyd is Sean Bell, is Trayvon Martin, is Jordan Davis, is Mike Brown, is Rakia Boyd, is Corinne Gaines, is Sandra Bland, is Ramali Graham, is Kamani Gray, Jaron Small, Fernando Castillo. Like, this list is too long. This is a brief list. This is a brevity of the situation, right? But George Floyd was at the front of the line in that particular effort to spread global outrage. That didn't even last anymore. What do we get out of it? We get statues and things like that, and symbolism and symbolism, a performative symbolism. It's cute, but what does the actual action look like, right? Because if we're doing these things and black bodies are still being laid out, if black bodies are still, police brutality is still taking place, if they're not defunding the police, if they're not holding those people accountable, right? If they're not even putting them in the forefront. Somebody said the other day, interesting perspective around it, let's not look at this as the Ahmaud Arbery trial. It's the trial of, barely remember the names of the guys, McDonald and McDaniel, I think it was, it's their trial because they're the ones that did the crime. They're the ones that killed this man, right? And because, and what happened because of Ahmaud Arbery did, it will still be the Ahmaud Arbery case if it was flipped on the other side. Right, it's the Ahmaud Arbery trial while he's in death, and it will be the Ahmaud Arbery trial if he was the one who actually did that particular crime. So we were never absolved of the criminality associated with black people. Right, they get to get off scot-free because you don't even have to remember their name. Like I barely remember the name, and that's valid.
I always have to go, but you know what that is? That's because there's stock in whiteness, and they're gonna maintain the stock. This is why they'll, slap on the wrist, white folks. They don't scan, they don't slash. Listen, you got some crimes where people who have white culture parents have done some of the most heinous things. You do not hear them splatter their name and drill that in because repetition, they understand the science of repetition, marketing and propaganda. And they continue to drill these things down to the point where it's in you to have self-hatred towards other African people because you're getting the same signals that are going to fortify white-centered consciousness, but you're an African. So how does that one set of information is sufficient for everybody? It's not. It's not. This is why I don't watch certain things on TV. I didn't play movies in my house. We don't watch TV now, but when my son was coming up, no TV now. We're past that TV 2 or 3 weeks, the TV won't come on. Because why? We got stuff to do. Yeah. I'm entertaining my son. We're doing homework. We're getting ready for the night. We're helping to cook. We're prepping for the next day. We play a little bit by the toy box. We do some creativity, some drawing or something. We really didn't have time for the TV.
Right. This point is literally forcing ourselves to sit in front of Netflix just to like take a break,
catch some,
to choose to be like, we need a break from what's going on. Let's have a little bit of entertainment, right? But it's not this thing like to take in that stuff, especially regular television. Regular television is a cesspool, right? At least you can control what you're watching when you like, let me pick a movie on Netflix or whatever the case may be.
It's crazy,
right? But you're talking about regular television and then in the news and the propaganda around that, the constant propaganda, it'll have you insane.
I live in Tennessee. And all they was talking about on the news every day was how they killed a black man in a traffic stop. I can't be listening to that every day. I'm raising a young black African son.
Yeah, there's no.
I cannot.
There's no forwarding information there.
And that's exactly what that does in your spirit. So what numbers is there for repair for that? Right,
and that's why it's important to get in tune. I'm pulling that from the TV thing to get in tune with like being international in the space, right? I'm gonna get to in a second, and getting international in the space of like knowing what is being seen, the propaganda machine, because we talk about the propaganda machine because this is what keeps up the confusion. This is what keeps up what the white-centered consciousness being, this colonizer mind is being the one that's shaping and maintaining the dumbing down of folks and the control over folks, right? And look, when I traveled to Nicaragua to do some work, and looking at what TV looks like for them, right? I was sitting there watching the TV. I'm like, one, the energy is uplifting the revolutionaries, right? There's no putting down. There's no hiding of revolutionary mindset. There's no hiding of Che Guevara's influence and like all these other different revolutions. Hugo Chavez, like there's no hiding them, right? And the commercials back to back were about revolutionary situation and overthrowing like this a corrupt leadership. Right, and who's being painted as the enemy on our lines outside of our barriers versus who the true enemy is to the world landscape, right? When we're looking at things, how are things being painted for us to really believe who's on our side, who's not, who's out to like really shape, where the power struggle is. Sister Ross says, I don't watch TV, yet a constant reminder of shooting the African is always brought up in conversation with sisters. I am more concerned about the health of the children. Absolutely, because the children are constantly consuming this stuff, right? And now when you got YouTube and you got all these things, they can look at it behind your back. They can look at it when you're not looking. They can see these things and look and see these things. And now you got to answer some questions, right? So what do you do, right? Because also parenting this social thing of you got to shape a line or make it pretty pink bows and smoke and unicorns around how the kid should receive this information. as if kids are dumb, right? We have brilliant African kids at 3 and 5 years old processing calculus. That's been a reality within our history. So you don't have to sit there and Google Gaga kids around the realities that they're gonna live with when they get older. They're gonna live with right now, right? 3-year-old, you put in school, kindergarten, they're gonna deal with these innate things because that hatred or whatever it is that the parents have is passed down into that kid, and that kid's gonna be a bully, and that kid's gonna bully that kid, your kid more often than not, because he's black, because he looks different, because he looks funny, because he doesn't look like me, because his nose is big, or it's because of whatever the case may be, and that's instilled, that's nurtured. Right? That hate is nurtured. That discrimination is nurtured, and it's passed down. Kids, that's not a thing for kids, because kids are in the space of development. They're developing based on what's in their surroundings. So if you see a kid that's coming out of here with hate, that kid learned that hate. And where do you learn that hate? In the house. Period.
Because who's going to say it's okay to talk about people like that? We all have an internal code. Mm-hmm. Listen, we ignore it if we want to, but we have an internal code. Mm-hmm. And children know what's right and what's wrong, and they function strictly on their feelings. That's mine, gimme.
Right.
Push you down. Right? Or my friend, my buddy. Oh, you stay away from them kids. I'm just saying. This is for us to deal with in our community. What's morally and ethically sound for the health and well-being of African people? What are we doing in terms of moving forward for our way forward as a community of people? Because listen, these folks got it lined up for us. I'm here to tell you. They got it lined up for our youth. Okay? Our youth now, they have zero grounding. None. Zero grounding. At school is teaching our children and indoctrinating our children into a whole new way of thinking. And let me tell you something. Lazy brain. You know how long I've been telling people telling me I'm strict? I'm strict? I'm strict. First of all, you here with the low-hanging fruit. Let me let you know what's necessary for African people. The baseline is self-discipline. Baseline. If you cannot baseline be self-disciplined, then you are subject to be a double agent. You are subject to be a Judas. They're going to turn you. They're going to flip you because you have no self-discipline. That's the bottom line. And if you can't get past what you looking like you're not even at the party if you're talking about what you look like. I'm so worried about my clothes. I'm trying to be cute. I'm going to let everybody know, like these grown old women, I'm going to let everybody know I still got my sexy on in your camera with your butt naked with your booty in the camera. Like, what is happening? Yeah. What is happening?
Well, it says you're a liability.
Grandma said you don't put your business in the street for everybody to see your business.
And now grandmas today are the ones putting the business out.
And not for exactly. You're not a young woman. You're not. And let me tell you, I had my 2 times during my career, my life of taking pictures with too much skin. Let me put it like that. Too much skin, bathing suit, outfit, or what have you. I was doing work. I was getting paid to produce photos, stock photoshop. But I wasn't online. And back then, when I was coming up, it wasn't like Facebook. You didn't have Facebook. You didn't go in the street putting too much of your body out. Grandma said, listen, if you go, you show a little skin on the top, don't show skin on the top and bottom. Right? You got your legs out, your top should be covered. I mean, up to your neck. Wear a brooch and a choker. I'm just saying, these things went out, right? If you had your arms loose, your arms out, then you need to wear a top that's covering your whole chest. You don't have a V-neck sweater with a low dip, right? Low dip. We got women. All they do is show you their boobs all day. But you want respect. You want a man to treat you like his wife, something that he's proud of. But you got your whole rack outside for every man, no name, nondescript. What is he working for? What is he working for? I'm just saying. What is he working for? Because and then on top of that, you, with the manipulation of the mind, with the fact that you're not paying attention, you look like every other woman that's out here in the street. So what's particularly special about you?
It's different.
He gonna walk out the house and he gonna see 6 different women before he gets to the corner look just like you.
Exactly.
I'm just saying. Because all you working with is what you look like. That's all you got going on.
Right.
No personality, no backbone, no African center consciousness, no way to infuse, no feminine energy, no way. And what is feminine energy? Oh God, they done changed the definition of feminine energy. Feminine energy means you can put your cootie in the street.
Right.
Everybody
women's empowerment.
Waist beads.
You can own your sexuality. You can own your sexuality and sexual.
That's what feminine energy is.
That's what it is. And sensual and sexual has been blurred. That line too.
Sensual is no longer in the space. And every day is not a day to be sensual.
Every day.
Every day and with anybody.
Every day is hot.
Like, because we realize that Facebook is now the new social environment.
Right. And sorry, go ahead.
So Facebook is the place where everybody parks all of their business.
Facebook and Instagram. Forget about Instagram and turn people into models.
I'm like, come on, family, what we gonna do?
But now and this is what I'm saying. The Matrix knows what's going on, and it's like as long as they're distracted by that. That's good. That's interesting. Let's pump that into the space. Like let's pump that sexual. Yeah, these are good. Let's give them Cardi. Let's give them Megan. Let's give them every carbon. Let's give them Nicki. Let's give them every carbon copy of these women out here to appease that. Let's give them big. Let's give them big hips. Let's give them all.
Britney Spears.
Let's give them that.
Lizzie Lohan.
Yeah, for their side.
What's that? What is that archetype? It's an archetype. So there you go.
Right.
Madonna, Grace
Madonna.
Jones, Madonna, Lindsay Lohan, Britney Spears, Little Kim, Foxy Brown.
They were teenagers,
Queen Pen.
They were teenagers, Little Kim and Foxy Brown.
Little Kim was 15 when
Foxy
she had
Brown
her
is
booty
younger.
on that cover. Foxy Brown was a year younger than her. Who else?
All of them.
Now you got,
and now they
Nicki
do it because
Cardi
it's
B.
cool. Cardi B, Megan Thee Stallion. You got all these people, because I'm an artist, so I say into all these people. You got all these shit. I've seen like these concerts the past summer, Rolling Loud, and all these concerts. I'm seeing these pictures. I'm like, all these women, they're all like, why do none of them have pants on?
They're all
performing on stage in bikinis and underwears. Or sometimes
I would feel so
shit, like
so,
and they look like beat up Barbie dolls, like they're doing all this surgery and all this and that, and to look like a vision of something that's not even true, to look like a vision of whatever this society has created of what perfection means in your body. None of that is true. And then they say that's not for you, whatever. Crazy. And then the further on, the Matrix has weaponized it to the point where it's like now you can do both. You can be a PhD and you can be ratchet. You can do this and let's amp that up. Yeah, you can be sexual. You could want to go on Freaknik and be on sit on someone's son's face and all this type of stuff, and then go on Monday to your firm, your law firm. You can do both. Get somebody to do both. Let's do all this. Let's blur the lines of that thing. It's okay. This is all the pieces of you, but all the pieces of you don't have to be for public consumption. You can leave all the pieces of you to yourself and let them figure it out, because it's not for them. It's not for them, right? It's like an open book test. How you gonna let everybody get 100? Fucking with you. How you gonna let everybody get 100 on the test?
Participation awards. I don't get participation awards. If you ain't doing no work, you get nothing from me. Period. You get nothing. I don't do participation awards. I need you to know. I need you to know how to do the work.
Yeah, I like
show your work.
Yeah, shouts out, Rock. Yeah, South Rock, definitely. Let's. I gotta clap it up. I'm gonna do my Noriega Dream. Shout out, South Rock.
There are so many.
Yeah, no, there's so many. There's so many
underground artists.
So many.
And she happened to be the only one that's getting the platform right now. But
no, you got shouts out. I mean, put it in the speaker. We got South Rock, who is just like you want to talk about toe to toe with the dudes. Forget about it. It ain't no win rap is rapper, because she just kills it. Jean Grey has been one of them that's holding out for a very long time. Just beastly on the mic. MC Light's still doing her thing. MC Light is MC's out still doing their thing, right? Missy's still doing her thing. She runs the gamut.
I don't know what's going on with Missy. Missy came back.
Missy came back, so she got her star. Shouts out to her again as well. She got her star on the Walk of Fame. Still a trinket in the Matrix, but we still give accolades for people doing their thing.
Because you're an African and you're in development, and it's obvious that you're in development. There's a journey that you are becoming, and you are trying to expand, and it's hard to expand inside of this madness. So many people cower away, and particularly it's hard to be first. Yeah, because you be the one to go out there and be first. Everybody watch you get your head chopped off, then they come behind you and they soft walk. They do a little soft shoe on the way through. Shouts out to our brother Godfrey. He's a hotmess.com. Love him like I love cooked food.
Peace and power, big homie checking in on the YouTube. We appreciate you. We eat both, so we thank y'all for checking in. Please share the broadcast and please tap in with the conversation. We appreciate comments and people checking in with it. But yeah, it's. I'm sorry, I didn't cut off your point.
Brother, we were just trying to the brother Godfrey. Yeah, we'll stay keeping it real out here in these streets. Yeah. But we gotta really support the
Yeah,
low voice in the woods.
Yeah, we got like I want to go back to because we talking about music because the music is music has been a powerful tool, right? Like I said, I'm a music artist myself. I produce and I do hip hop as well, but I do it with the mindset around. So what we talk about, like I said, I'm me wherever I go. That includes my music, right? You probably get the most intimate portrayal of what my thoughts are through my music, right? Because it's an art form, it's a passion for me. But I look at this landscape where music is a powerful tool because music moves people without even understanding the language, right? That's why you got you got all these different types of artists that do craziness, but it just impacts people because of sound, right? When we talking about who's in impact, you got Rock, you got Rhapsody is doing her thing. You got a woman called Shay Noir, she was dope. Sample the Great, she's dope. There's so many different, again, MC Light is out there right now. We got Moo Fresh. She is fucking fire. Moo Fresh is fire. Definitely talks that talk and sings and raps and all that.
She came out with a little crooked song for 5 minutes. I was like,
yeah.
What's up with that?
What's that? Which song?
The chick that came out with the I'm a Cow.
That was Doja Cat.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, no, I ain't talking about her. Moo Fresh. Mamuna Yusuf. She's super dope. Okay. Yeah, she was rocking with the brother Toby Wigway and in that she's in that space of the conversation, right? She's in Cyrock space and like all that, just like really dope on women MCs. They got Lady Lesher over there in the UK. We got Little Sims over there in the UK. We got really some really incredible women MCs. When we talk about the dynamic of the sexualization of our women, is what this boils down to. In this particular part of our conversation, is we got these dynamics that what's being pushed and pulled and what's being highlighted, right? You notice what's mostly being highlighted out there and pushed into the forefront. These are the popular people. These are the voices. And you hear for me, like I said, they want to blur these lines. And I look at, there's a lot of people that, that love Megan Thee Stallion and things like that. And I hear, I hear you doing your thing. Right? You woman, you do the thing, and I applaud folks doing their thing. She has a different mindset. She is, she does the anime stuff. She has these aspects of herself that's I find very cool. And it's actual dynamic of a personality of a person. But what's getting pumped out is all the sexual shit. Right. I try to give people the benefit that I try to listen to projects, and I've listened to multiple projects, and they all of the songs, there's nothing of substance other than sex or taking or women's empowerment in the conversation in terms of switching the roles on the men, like making the men do this, and like I'm going to be the dominant in the sexual room, like kind of like. But like they Two Live Crew. Yes. Let me flip that up. It's very much about flipping the script, and I get it, right? I get it because a lot of hip hop, you talk about again Two Live Crew, like when the point where the parental advisory sticker got on hip hop albums, right? And that whole and the misogyny and stuff, all that exists. Yes, this is not taking away any accountability for any of that and what men have done. What the conversation is as well is that is the response to do that back, or is the response to create a new dynamic, right? Is the response to create a new dynamic? Do we feed the beast, or do we move forward beyond the beast to where the beast can't touch us, right? Do you want what is the energy we want to put forth and shape it? We can. Right, we can. Like I said, I'm clear. Like if Megan Thee Stallion started rapping about that anime shit and talking to the black nerds out there and like pushing up that space, that's a space, right? Because we're not any one way. We're all these things, right? We love math. We love the anime. We love the video games. We love the academics. We love all that type of stuff. We can't. We're not this. We're multifaceted people. So why is it we're being funneled into the space of content of sex and degradation, and misogyny, misogynoir, and degrading black women, and not having black women essentially degrading themselves in the space, right? And in the name of something else that's like to kind of make you feel better, right? We do a lot of things to justify our actions, right? And we even further that we've been enculturated to believe that there's always someone else to blame other than ourselves. So it's it's this. That's why we would make this type of music, but y'all don't like it. So what? Do it. Right? You put who's being told? You're being told by these labels. You're being owned by these labels who want you to keep degrading yourself, and again are weaponizing your bodies, weaponizing your voices to push forth any possible way to maintain control and keep the brainwaves down. Right? Because God forbid you step up into a consciousness that will allow you to battle back against the system. That's what I say. They don't care at this point about Beyonce in Formation or Jay-Z doing moves to help bail out a black artist or that are in trouble with the law, whatever case may be. You don't care. They don't care about that stuff. That's nice and cute, right? But that's not going to empower. That's not going to get you to do anything. You're going to clap and you're going to keep it moving. Gonna go get ratchet, go hit the club, or go like I'm gonna go with stomp with the brothers, and we're gonna act like we entrepreneurs, we the big boss, we're gonna do this, we're gonna give you Forex, we're gonna give you all this type of stuff. This is financial literacy, but I want you to pay $5,000 for my class because I think this makes sense, not knowing you don't realize who you're dealing with, right? You've been so far removed from your people, you don't even know who you're dealing with out here. You're not meeting your people and being grounded with what actually can build power. Because now you look just like the rest of capitalism, right? Now you're just exploiting and creating more of the same of the oppression, creating more of the same of the capitalistic racial undertones and discrimination. Because that's what you know.
What is within the confines of the,
and you're not battling.
There you go.
Yeah, it's there. And we understand too, and that's the thing when you step into a certain space and when you break down the truth, you understand all of these things. It doesn't change for being frustrating to watch, but you're working within the parameters of what the matrix is giving you, and because it's so deeply embedded, because you're born into it, you don't know how to even begin to even try to find the truth. You don't know how to begin to do the research, but you got to do it, right? You got to ask the questions. You got to be like, something's not right here. I need to figure this out. Versus something's not right here, but I got money and it just feels kind of good. Feelings versus the logical nature of what you're dealing with, right? Because the fear is you step into the space of truth, you're not going to be liked as much. You're gonna step away from it will eat you away just as much as the emotional of like feeling good about things. It will eat away at you to think like, now that you know what the truth of the world is, you have to step away from things that you love and then know that there's people that you loved as well that have been in those spaces that have not yet stepped out, and it's now you're breaking these bonds. Now you're breaking away from these things. While you may be getting closer and closer to a certain form of freedom, you're moving further away from things that were. So you become embattled, right? And that's what a lot of people don't want to deal with. People don't want to deal with peeling back those layers. They're becoming in embattled space, right? And they're feeling alone in it, right? We don't have to, because actually a lot of us are doing the same thing. But what do we do to create the unification, to reach out, to take those extra steps? You take the extra steps to learn. You take the extra steps to go and be with other people. If you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. Mm-hmm. We stick by that. We have to go far with each other. It's not about getting it for the moment. It's about creating the legacy.
Inbred hostility towards each other because we're seeing each other through the eyes of those who don't like us, who don't want us to feel equal or puffed up, if they say puffed up. Oh, but how about I just stand in my humanity? Since, it was real science, real written science, legal science, that African people were not human.
Yes.
So they could treat them like cows and horses and sheep.
Right.
Like real time. Breed them like breeding adults, fighting them like a cockfight. I'm just here to tell you that it takes a whole type of thinking to create this environment, because it's not just small pieces. There's a huge matrix of this madness, and they say no one can teach you, no one can tell you about the matrix. You have to see it for yourself.
Yeah,
because there's a lot of intricacies. There's so many intricacies in it, and our concern is about the health of your African-centered consciousness, so that you keep your light burning, you keep your oil burning, right? There's a way forward for you if you keep your light burning. I'm not here to negotiate about African people's humanity and their right to life. I'm non-negotiable.
Yeah,
I could tell your mama, period, right? I'm not here for it. And anyone who's not starting with a conversation about that, for me, is a hard no. Sorry.
Yeah.
There's no negotiation in it.
Yeah, definitely. I just want to check in with the chat really quick. I changed the website, so it's not bad for these people. But yes, Ross says the great voice that empower the goddess. And they don't play I am. Yeah, you gotta get the I am out there. It's a different type of flavor to have more folks playing that energy and that affirmation. I shake, good sister. And Ross also says the crazy thing when my young one hears space like Doja Cat and Nicki, she instantly feels gross. Yes, I'll let her know about the energy that is there to exploit, degrade, and so on. Yeah, when you know in your heart of hearts, you feel that. It's energy. It's an energy exchange. That's why I said music is very powerful. The vibrations, the frequency is very powerful. It gets into you. That's why a lot of these kids gravitate so much to what to be this trap music, and now the trap music is like permeated, not even just hip hop. Now it's in pop music, it's in rock, it's in electronic, and all this type of stuff. They're blurring the lines to have that space like move outward, but it's all about the feeling. You ever ask a young person, teenager, whatever case may be, Zennial, not Zennial, Gen Z, they'll why do you like this music? It's the feeling, man. It's the vibe. It's lit. It's the vibes. It's what it is. So it doesn't matter what they're saying. Right, it doesn't matter what they're saying. They can say gibberish, like got like people like Young Thug who I can't stand because people have full. I can't stand it. It's the most Young Thug is the most mind-boggling anomaly of music that I ever seen in my entire life, because people are like, he's a genius. You gotta listen to what he's saying. I've listened to what he's saying. He is the same. People that the crazy, and I feel like it's this idea of trying to just be amicable in the space. You got J. Cole and Jadakiss, all these people that you would herald as like great MCs talking about oh, he's a genius. You gotta really listen. Elton John said Young Thug was a genius. I'm like, what are you all on? And I refuse to believe. I don't care what type of accolades you have. No, you're crazy, because he doesn't talk about anything. No, right? I've literally listened to the best of my ability through the mumbles or whatever. He's not saying anything.
But that's what happens when you are listening with African-centered consciousness. Elton John is not listening to him with African-centered consciousness. They don't have a frequency. Our sister Raloda said crazy thing that when my young ones hear the spaces of Doja Cat, right, and Nikki, she constantly feels gross, right, because she's feeling gross because there's an energy attached to that. Yeah. And she says she's teaching them about the exploitation and degradation of women, and they're playing. It's almost like a reverse context, right? So like I said, you make a plan. What is your opposition going to say or do in response to your movement? Are you playing offense or defense in terms of your mental awareness, your health, and your African-centered consciousness? You have to be aware of what's going to be opposing that movement, that forward trajectory, as you move forward to rebuild your consciousness and rebirth yourself, right? It's going to be necessary. So when you're looking at energy, the manipulation of energy, it happens. I said, listen, you guys want to know you want to see the comparison of the feeling of going to church revival? Go to a Jay-Z concert. They're using the same mechanism, the same exact identity mechanism. If you've ever been to a Southern Baptist revival service, a shut-in with that choir, all the choirs coming and visiting, because I used to sing in the choir. So I'm here to tell you, and you go to a Jay-Z concert, it's the same energy. Same energy. It's just turned up higher because they got fire and explosions. They always use that, right? They always use lights, fire, explosion, and they're playing with the stimulation. All of these things, they're playing you. And because all you're doing is responding to stimuli, right? You biophysiologically, chemically are responding to stimuli. Right. That's it. And then if you put a little alcohol in there, you put a little drugs, a little weed or something in there, took a little tab or pill or something, you just amplifying it.
Yeah. I wanted, when you touched on that, and I wanted to actually talk about that as well. Like what happened this past weekend with this other guy, Travis Scott, right? And his whole festival, Astro World Festival. It was his album Astro World, which came out a few years back, that none of these young people swear by, right? If it's not Young Thug, it's Travis Scott, right? And it's just a lot of, again, like the drug and the mixing the back with the juice and the perp and getting high and the antidote and all that type of stuff. But what it is, and I get it, like I said, I see the whole gamut of what's the connective thread. Is to production. It creates this kind of this euphoric thing, and then using the voice as an instrument, as the melodic tones, and using the auto tune. And this is what they do to beguile the mind, right? It's quote unquote sounds nice. It feels good. Never mind what being said. And now on top of that idea, what it feels good, what's being said is that's what's being said is still subliminally reaching. Right, because you're not hearing. It's like when you go to sleep with listen to meditative affirmations, right? While you're going to sleep, have that in your head. You may not be actually pinpointing on it, but it's still reaching your consciousness, right? So even if what they're said isn't being directly heard, the consciousness is picking it up. So you got now this guy like Travis Scott. His festival this past weekend just started the festival. The festival, and 8 people died. Right, he started the show, and all the people, we're talking about 50,000 people. People bum rushed the stage. They bum rushing the spot.
Jeez.
300 people injured. 8 people died. Youngest person was 14 years old, right? Because of that energy, right? And then the visuals of it, just like we talking about the fire coming up, the fire's coming up, and you got messages, subliminal message. See on it, and people are relating like there's demonic messaging in that. And honestly, I wouldn't even put it past it because again, as long as these labels are involved, as long as we're willing to be the submissive puppets to what they're putting forth, then they will let you believe anything you want. They will let you do whatever you want. And I have yet to see this brother Travis Scott be in any space of trying to battle against that. It's just making music. I'm just having a good time making music, right? It's nothing of like, I remember one thing that really did not make me a fan of him was trying to downplay the ideas of social justice warriors, quote unquote, or advocates, or the Black conscious movement or whatever. Just like, oh, like stop all that stuff or whatever. Like kind of like really like just attacking it as far as like it's not doing anything for folks, right? And dismissing what it could mean for folks. So as long as you're agent of doing that, you're an enemy of mine, right? Because and we're clear there's folks in the conscious community, they be clowning, but however, to as a public facing celebrity figurehead to put that forth, everyone gets lumped into that conversation, right? No matter the depths of their leadership, the depths of their involvement, or how authentic it is, it all gets lumped to this one space. So now, because you said it as a celebrity, now it's become valid. That's a standard. Everyone won't fuck with nobody that's in that space because now they've hung onto every word because you made them believe you because you created energy.
And I
right?
have an issue with people being so gullible.
Yeah.
Also, I have an issue with the fact that we have lazy brain. We've been enculturated into lazy brain. If people have to think too hard, they're already exhausted.
Right.
This is incredible. And this is what's happened to our young people.
Yeah.
And they don't want to have that conversation. They got all these various personalities now that they've now, created with our young people. Like, who are these caricatures that they've now created? That we have our people who are now behaving in ways that are like so unrealistic. Like, where's your person? You are a person. You don't have to pretend to be anybody. All you need to do is develop who you are. You are enough. That's it. You know, and if you're in this social landscape, there's a learning curve that you're in or you're going to need to navigate, which is why I say if you don't know a fully functional animated African, fully functional and animated African, because a lot of people out here that are walking dead, right? They get up every day, they poo, they drink, they go to coffee, they put gas in the car, they wash the car, they play with the kids, cook dinner, take showers, right? But they're not functional African people. Right. They're
going through the motions of reality.
They're going through the motions of living in this social and existing, but they're not a part of the environment, right? They have no frequency. They're just there, which is oftentimes why they need to have groups of them because they all share an energy frequency because they're all trying to, this is a movement of energy. This is a whole nother level. I try not to get into that other conversation, at least until we get on the basic level of functional conversation with ourselves, especially within our community, because we don't really want to take it up to another level. And then it's, you're talking over people's heads, right? But there's energy. Since we talked about the energy with the Nicki Minaj videos, we're talking about the energy at this concert. We're talking about energy, and energy moves. People share energy, okay? And it's important. This is another thing we can use that. We can use that social learning theory, right? By virtue of exposure, we impact. We're just living. Like we have an intention about the way that we live because we live in an upright standing life.
Intentionally daily,
we're living intentionally every day, but we're not living intentionally to make it a habit of trying to be posturing for the space.
To be a thing, right?
Right. To be a thing. And we're not trying to be a thing. We are being our best selves every day as fully functional animated Africans.
Right. We
process in ways to utilize our skill in order to add value to the environment.
Right. And challenge ourselves to elevate.
We give more than we take. Right. And challenge ourselves to be better and grow better every day as servant leaders in the community. Right. Why leadership? Because people follow you, that makes you a leader. Now you can be leading them into the good or you can be leading them into bad. What are you choosing?
Them off a cliff.
If you don't know a fully functional animated African, please become one.
Please do.
We need more.
Right.
We need that critical mass. That is a benefit to me. That's a benefit to you. That's a benefit to our community. It's not easy. It could be easy because we don't need a leader. As a fully functional animated African, you become the difference. You be the difference. That's different. Right. There's no need for someone to lead you because there's no 3,000 ways to do it right. There really isn't. There really isn't 3,000 ways to negotiate doing it right. Somebody needs for you to stay in that gray area so that they can continue to do what they're doing. They can continue to do what they're doing and behave the way they're doing and exploit you for you to stay in this cloak, this limbo space of detached from yourself. And then we wonder why there's so much mental health issues in our space. You're detached. You're unhinged. And then you're being tricked by being sucked into this physical existence of getting stuff. The journey of acquiring and basic living experience. Listen, people are being hindered through basic living experience. Why do you participate? What's the purpose? Why do we participate? Because we don't have to. Right? Why can't we become somebody to trust? Become somebody that is trustworthy. Be a trustworthy person. Right? We need to bring people into the conversation so that they can have the tools. You know, so many of us don't have the facets to have this conversation in depth. There's a practical reason for learning and development. It is a practical reason why we have all of these assets in our space, and yet we have not moved anywhere. There are still segments of our community that are getting ahead, and huge segments of our community that are not. Why? Because the wealth gap is still like this. So it doesn't really matter where you're getting. You might be getting somewhere, but everybody else is not really getting anywhere. Because there's still a huge degree of us that are here. And these individuals need to have the skills and faculties they already have. They already are worthy. They need the leg up. They need the be propped up and given the right infusion of energy that would allow them to elevate their frequency and be present and contribute. Every man, every hand, all hands on deck. We don't have no time for no anchors. Nobody can be left behind. If you're not an asset, then you're a liability. If you're a liability, then can we help you or do we have to leave you? Period. If you coming, get your shit and let's go. If not, we out. But nobody got time for that foolishness. I'm just saying, African. Practical terms in reality. Right? We can't be considering, well, are they going to pay us? Because they might never pay us. But we don't have to wait to get paid to get our stuff together.
Right. Don't sit around for it. Because what you going to do with it? If you ain't making no plan, the hell you going to do with it?
Give it back to them. You're going to get that coin and you're going to go give it right back to them.
Right? If you're not making a plan for this,
ain't gonna plan
then what's
the
point? And it could, because if you made a plan, you would already enact it, right? Without waiting for something else.
You'd have already put it in play.
You would be enacting and not even worrying about what the reparations are, right? It's not about like we don't deserve it. Absolutely.
Of course we do deserve it.
We absolutely deserve it. But the thing is, what are you gonna do when you get it, right? And what we're saying is, if you actually are planning for what you're gonna do is, then you're already gonna put in work. You're not gonna plan in and wait. Right? You just want to get it, and then now let me figure out what I'm gonna do now that I have this. And then before you know, you spent it, and it's gone. Right? We got people that win the lottery, get $1 million, $2 million, $100 million, and blow it in a couple years because they have a plan.
Done the research.
They didn't plan what the idea is. What do you invest in?
Notice why are your comments coming up in another language?
Are you doing that?
No. It came up in Arabic, then it came up in Spanish. She said they're lurking. Oh, what's going on here? Leave our sister alone. What's happening? Are you doing that? Somebody's doing that. She says right now it says you're currently offline. How is that possible?
What the hell? What's going on? Are we offline?
Boy, too much, y'all. You know,
no, I don't know what you were saying.
It's family go to meeting time, family.
Mine is on, but we still here.
We in here.
Badges. What's happening?
What is the business, y'all?
Badges. Let us know what's going on, Sister Rob. But we out here. They watching us. Yeah, they watching. They know you saying too much. See what happens when you say too much? That was when you said too much.
Listen. I mean, I'm a little bit annoyed that we have to be oppressed in a situation where our voices have to be strong.
The metaverse is after us.
They even said something the other day. A post came up and it said,
"Shout for the metaverse."
There was no fact checker until the truth started coming out. All these years, they had this whitewash history that was being taught in the schoolhouse as the standard. Suddenly they need fact checkers now that the truth is out here in the street, right? Now the people are getting accustomed to the truth, right? So how are you behaving with this information in your job, at work? I'm asking. How are you behaving with this work in your community among people that are not having this conversation, right? I just read a post recently a little while ago. It said scientists have read hundreds of books in their entire life and believe that they still need to know more. And Christian people read one book and swear they know everything. You better. I was floored. That thing had me cracking up because it's the truth. I swear I tried to have conversations, and that's not the dump. Like I said, I don't take these things from our people because Christianity is based in part truth, and that's how good a lie is.
Chew up the fat, spit out the bone.
Right, chew up the fat, spit out the bone, but then take your journey and keep moving, because if you keep digging, you'll keep going farther and farther behind, and you will continue to stack your wall, and you will fortify your wall because you have bricks. Right. You cannot stop learning at that one space. You cannot be afraid of taking responsibility for yourself, your actions, your mind, your words, and your future. Right? People are addicted to this because they use this as therapy. They use this as a crutch because they don't mind playing, robot in the Matrix, round peg, round hole, bubbling, little test score, regurgitate 12, 13, 14, 25 different scientists, European scientists, put it on a piece of paper, type it up, APA, MLA style, Chicago style, hand it in, boom. Here go your accolades. See, we don't mind that framework because it's comfortable. It is within the company and the creativity of Urugu's consciousness, right? According to Baba Malamu's post. So that is for us to then take our minds out of that space and reconfigure the way we think and process information and our standard of behavior, because we have no standards. We just let whatever go, and with our children these days, whatever. We got these folks teaching our kids foolishness. Right. So listen, family. This family go to meeting. What we do? And we out here. So please, I put the links. I dropped the links in there for we out here. I dropped the links in there for you all about my goodness. So you're gonna look in here, you're gonna see the We Charge Genocide document from the Zen Project. I mean, we read Zen, Howard Zen, he was he was a decent, he's done his work across the landscape, but he's also a white man.
So it's all pieces.
You gotta chew up the fat, spit out the bone.
It really is.
And you want to cross-reference your tools, right? And there are many ways to get your research, but I just put this up there because I wanted you guys to see this document. And I also put up there the transcript for your civil rights. When did you get civil rights? When did African people become U.S. citizens? Are they U.S. citizens? Because to what and to what degree? Right. And what can you exercise as a citizen? You need human rights, right? You got citizen rights, but you need human rights, right, African? And it needs to be a daily consciousness in our social landscape, right? Everybody else makes sure they don't get treated like African people. They put themselves in front of the room and say, hold up. You're not going to treat us the way you treat African people. They got all kind of propaganda to keep themselves in the space of vulnerability. They do all kinds of things to run this racket. We got people in our segments who are in various spaces and places who don't have a fully functional animated African consciousness. All they want to do is excel in this system. Yeah. Their only function, their only desire is to excel within a society that is imbalanced, that causes hunger, death, and disease. But they want to be sitting pretty in the oven. I'm in the front, you in the back.
Against each other.
We still in the oven. They're all right with that, and they're calling and galvanizing other African people into the same consciousness. So that's for you to decide that you're going to fortify your mind and you're going to be able to heighten your sense of discernment. And there's work in it. There's work in it. I didn't say it was an easy journey. But if we can get that critical mass, we can provide each other with safety. Right. We can insulate one another with safety. We can do that. But we got to have some balls about it.
Right. It may take
Get
time
our
or it may
nerve.
not. It may take time or it may
It
not.
may not.
But you know, it was something. It was meme I saw of like
It'll never happen if
somebody-
you don't get started though.
Right, you have to get started, right? There was a meme I saw of like somebody was like, "Oh, I want to go to school, back to school, but you know it's gonna be 4 years, and I'll be 34 or whatever the case may be." It was like, well, either way, even if you do or you don't, you're still gonna be 34. So why not just
Exactly. Well, my
you're still gonna do the
my
work.
formula
Might as well
was
do the work.
you're gonna spend this time if you're gonna keep the breath of life that's gonna be in your body anyway. So make the time matter. Make
Right.
the time worth it.
Exactly.
Do something functional with your time that adds to your personal development.
Right.
And it's important
Make it
that we
worth
as a community, because I know a lot of people, they get all their little feelings and get all immature and all angsty about me saying learning and development, like I'm gonna be out here telling people what to do. I am. Let's just call a spade a spade. I am gonna be telling you what to do because I have the faculties to be able to do that.
Right.
But you're listening to people telling you what to do, and they're not. They don't have the faculties.
Okay.
It's because they're popular. It's because you like them, but they're leading you to death.
Right.
We're trying to help move us forward with and apply the gifts that we have to the space so that everybody gets an equal share. So that everybody gets the opportunity to move forward in light.
Right, exactly.
With protection.
Because that's what it is.
There's no need for there to be a power differential. I meet people all the time, and I'm watching them right now trying to take a power differential. I'm looking right at you because I see clearly. I see it clearly. I look right at people trying to take a power differential.
All the time.
I'm like, wow, okay. So you're saying a lot about yourself when you have to do that. You don't realize that.
We're quite observant.
Mm-hmm. You are speaking an entire language when you need to usurp over others. When you can't stand eye to eye with another human and you need to take position of posture above people, you're speaking about your lack of development. You're speaking about it. No, we're not talking about respect. We're not talking about honor. We're not talking about our African cultural hierarchy and the way that we interact within our social landscape. We're not talking about that. We're talking about in the matrix.
Mm-hmm.
From one African to another, you in the front, I'm in the back. We still in the oven. What's good? So there's no power differential here. I respect you, you respect me. Let us do that.
On that note,
African.
We've been with y'all for a bit.
I said the right lotus is rolling.
All right, gents. Ashe. We appreciate you, sister. Thank you for being with us this evening. Again, shouts out to the folks that have been with us today.
Yes.
Brother big homie on YouTube. Thanks for checking in, briefly. And everybody was just tuning in. If you want to tune in on the playback, we appreciate it.
Check in.
Yeah, this is Soundbytes International Radio, y'all. African conscious to claim, one world is the aim.
You know what's coming up next, y'all. You know what's coming up
Absolutely.
next.
Just make sure before we do, just want to remind y'all to again. Subscribe on our YouTube channel. Subscribe to Soundbytes International Radio on our YouTube. Make sure you also follow like us on Facebook at Soundbytes INTL Radio, where we go live Facebook and YouTube. I don't know how long we're gonna be doing Facebook because they be acting funky with the metaverseness. So we'll see about that. But we're here for the moment. Follow us on Instagram as well, Soundbytes International Radio. And make sure you listen to our past episodes, past seasons at Soundbytes International Radio on Spotify and Apple Podcasts.
Yes.
Y'all make sure you leave those reviews. Hit them 5 stars.
Thanks.
Let us know what you think. Let us know we rocking out here. We out here. All right. So, of course, what we do it one time for our sister.
We're standing here with you, family.
Yes, absolutely. Peace and power. Brother Akil, we appreciate you. Dr. Akil Fani, shouts out to you. Thanks for checking in. And you know how we do, Sister Rob. We're gonna rock out for a bit. So sit tight with us. We're gonna rock into that power that I am.
You know what
Brother
Naeem
Bricks, myself, and AJ Throwback. So let's get it, family. You know how it is. On Soundbytes National Radio, y'all. Let's kick it.
I walk the face of the earth with a boldness which makes people ask who sent you. I tell them I am. They tell me that's a cute affirmation, but it's not an answer. I reply, listen again. My affirmation is your answer.
It's the power of I am. This is the greatness of I am. Look at the strength that I have. None of the truth can deny that. Hear the proof in the hi-hat. Eternal reflection, I digress. I love me more, never love less. I love me more, never love less. Turn $1,000,000 dreams, yeah, how I manifest it. Look deep inside, yeah, you be the blessing. $1,000,000 dreams, yeah, how I manifest it. Anything I want, yeah, turn up. This is the power of I am. This is the greatness of I am. Look at the strength that I have. None of the truth can deny the power of I am. Handsome chocolate mofo, yo. Anytime I'm on GoPro, lyrical high home growth. Living spots with a cold solo. Conditions without morale so low. So I pitched it fast, pitch it slow. Till the cows call home, bro. It didn't make sense. I was told as a child I wouldn't be shit. Revenge on my mind, started flipping the script. They fed me lies, started puking that shit. They treated me different, I embraced that shit. You know the ones that be closest to you, to be the family ties. Sacred bonds, seeing plenty murder, dirty service, ludicrous. Cock up with a dirty burner. But better believe in me 1,000%. Better I achieve what I was sitting here to get. And I couldn't resist. Kill these niggas with their toxicness without a popping pistol monotonous. Told myself I couldn't rock with this. Hanging with goofies couldn't get rich. True blood suckers couldn't see bliss. Couldn't see shit. Cold face, nigga. They're wrong. I ain't regurgitating, percolating, singing the same song. I'm blessed all day long. Lame all day long. Having a form of godliness, but denying the power thereof. Fuck nigga,
That shit's
I am.
a grind. I'm totally surprised that I ain't lost my mind. Had to take setbacks and learn the weak setbacks that those I gave jetpacks that no planes don't fly. Now I'm in no space, so wasting my time. Focus my goals into shit paradigms. My get up and go to keep my folks from dying. So I'm on the road with a goal that's refined. Yeah, riding with a mean vision. Reflected from every angle through a clean prism. Doesn't matter reflecting in the color and gray. When I lost my mother, found peace aside my queen, and I laid in on my brothers. Yeah, bars was shaping up the grand scheme. I done wrestled to the mat on my damn demons. In a matter of time, became a champion. Now my everyday march to do the damn thing. So my aim to pack out every arena, inspire the future leaders with every line of the levers of gods and unbelievers. Do what they can't conceive us, love what we do and leave us. Brick, they never see us. Woo! God damn, I'm feeling good, motherfuck. What they say, I'm doing what they never would. Yeah. Get a grasp on your life, yeah. Pay many sacrificial prices. Podium done playing nice, yeah. They're gonna recognize who the nice is. From the north to the southeast, kicking others every lane, share about seats. I'm in line with it, man. You cannot be. Say anything I won't yet.
This is the power of I am. This is the greatness of I am. Look at the strength that I have. None of the truth can deny that. Hear the proof in the hi-hat. Eternal reflection, I digress. I love me more, never love less. I love me more, never love less. Turn $1,000,000 dreams, yeah, how I manifest it. Look deep inside, yeah, you be the blessing. $1,000,000 dreams, yeah, how I manifest it. Anything I want, yeah, turn up. This is the power of I am. This is the greatness of I am. Look at the strength that I have. None of the truth can deny the power of
Man, I
I
ain't
am.
talking in terms of I wish, I want to, or even I will anymore. Only things I proclaim, I do, I have, and I am. I do as my ancestors instruct. I have all I need to affect change, and I am a living magnification of God.
Thank you.